there comes a moment in time where you got to look yourself in the mirror. You got the worst scoring defense in the league. How'd that happen? This is the Ravens we're talking about.
Agree, yeah.
You understand? I mean, I haven't even spoken to my brother Ray Lewis in a while. I mean, I can only imagine what kind of mood he's in. Ed Reed and the boys, I just saw them at the game in Miami a few weeks ago. You can't believe what's happening here. Last year, the Ravens were the #1 defense against the run. They were 31st against the pass.
Yeah.
How'd that happen? You know, at some point in time, it's like,
Nation, welcome back to Ravens Wire Report, and let me talk straight to the heart of Baltimore tonight. You've heard the noise, you've seen the memes, you've listened to the hot takes saying this season is cooked, that the culture is cracked, that the identity that Ray and Ed built is gone. And then Stephen A. stepped to the mic and said the line that ripped through every living room in Charm City: you've got the worst scoring defense in the league. The Ravens do not resemble who they used to be. That stings because it hits a nerve. Not because it defines us, but because it dares us to answer. And that, flock, is exactly what we're about to do. Let's start with the cold reality and then build to the heat we're bringing. We're 1-5 going into the bye after a 17-3 loss to the Rams, a game where the offense stalled without QB1 and where a couple goal line calls went sideways. But within that frustration, Baltimore's spine showed up. The defense kept the Rams to 181 through the air and 74 on the ground. A legitimate response to a week of people clowning this unit. That's not opinion, that's what the tape and the stat sheet say. And you felt the drumbeat across the facility. This entire building is bracing for QB1 to step back in the door. John Harbaugh said it out loud. The Ravens expect Lamar Jackson back after the bye for Week 8 against the Bears on October 26th. That is not a whisper, that is the plan. The coaching staff is openly leaning into the emotional jolt that Lamar brings. Because when 8 plays, the offense is a different weather system. 32.8 points per game in his 4 starts this year. 10 touchdowns, a 130.5 passer rating. That's MVP efficiency production. With him sidelined the last 2 weeks, this team put up 13 total points. You don't need a PhD to see the delta. Now about the ground game. If you still think Derrick Henry is running on fumes, go rewatch Sunday. King Henry dialed up 122 yards on 24 carries. Patient vision, bang-bang cuts, and the same lean that breaks a defense's wheel into 4th. The box score says he's still 8th in the league in rushing with 4 TDs and 5.0 per carry. And that's with 8 men squatting in the box because defenses knew Lamar was out. Imagine that gravity when QB1 is back in pistol, freezing linebackers on zone read and RPO. Imagine mesh with Henry downhill and Zay on the glance. That's not hope, that's math. Yes, the backup carousel has been choppy. Cooper rush pressed, threw a pick, and the rhythm wasn't there. There are loud calls to give Tyler Huntley a bigger share of practice reps as QB2. That conversation is happening inside Owings Mills right now. Harbaugh even hinted the depth chart could be revisited. But the point is this: the self-scout is honest, not defensive. The staff sees what you see. They know where the stall points are, and they're not pretending otherwise. Let's address the elephant Stephen A. tossed onto the table. Worst scoring defense talk and the pressure on Harbaugh. If you want a franchise that hides from the heat, you picked the wrong bird. Baltimore puts it on the whiteboard in permanent marker. The numbers have been ugly over 6 weeks. Rush TDs allowed, explosive plays, red zone failures, and media outlets have slammed those rankings all week. But here's the missing context. This defense just put together its most assignment-sound game of the month, got younger dudes like Trenton Simpson humming, and tightened the passing windows even without their starting QB keeping them off the field. That's a trend you can build on, not a mirage. And I hear the Harbaugh hot seat whispers. Let's be grown-ups. The man has built a culture that gives this team a puncher's chance every single year. And in this league, culture is a currency you cannot buy at the deadline. Has the last decade been short in January wins? Yes. 3 playoff wins and no multi-game run in a single postseason is not the standard this city bleeds for. But does blowing up the foundation today make Lamar healthier tomorrow? Fix edge depth and iron out red zone sequencing overnight? No. What flips the season is getting the franchise back under center and marrying that with the run game that just woke up. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a football equation with controllables we actually control. So what are the fix-it items in the bye? The Ravens themselves laid it out. Get Lamar back, recalibrate the QB2 plan, clean red zone process, and patch the edge rusher rotation while injuries clear. Outside linebacker Tavius Robinson, who broke his foot versus the Rams, is expected back in 6 to 8 weeks, not season-ending. That matters for a room that needs juice. Meanwhile, the staff just posted a literal fix-it list for the bye. That's transparency and urgency, and it's happening right now. Let's talk identity, because that's what the national shows keep poking. Baltimore's identity has never been pretty. It's been pressure, takeaways, and a run game that drags you places you don't want to go. You saw hints of it even in a loss. Safeties triggering downhill, corners squeezing routes, and DeAndre Hopkins, yes, the hands are still top shelf, punishing single coverage on the boundary. You saw D-Hop stacking contested grabs despite limited targets. Expect that dial to turn with QB1's ball placement back in the huddle. And hear me on this. People keep saying season over at 1-5. Historically, 4 teams have climbed out of that hole to reach the tournament, none made a run. Fine. Put that bulletin board up too, because the team that we will be after the bye is not the roster that went 1-5. The team that we will be has Lamar's legs and eyes making safeties wrong pre-snap and post-snap. The team that we will be has Henry as the closer, pounding a defense that's been chasing 8 on boot and zone keep all afternoon. The team that we will be cleans the little stuff, motion timing, exchange on sneak looks, and that one miscommunication that killed the goal line sequence versus LA. Those little wins stack into Sundays. For the defense, here's the blueprint. Keep the Rams tape as the floor, not the outlier. Start with early down spill and leverage rules to earn 3rd and long, then turn the rush into packages. Sim creepers with Kyle Hamilton walk down. Mug looks from Simpson, whose run grade is now tops on the team. And selective 5-man heat to change launch points. You don't live all game in 0, but you do reclaim the initiative. The worst version of this defense was a reaction unit. The version we saw Sunday was proactive. Stay there, and the identity conversation flips from what happened to Baltimore to uh-oh, they're back to choking you at 15 yards. Offensively, the call sheet with Lamar changes everything. Those 12 and 21 personnel runs with Ricard as the hammer, they marry with shot plays off heavy. The Bears in Week 8 will overcommit to fit Henry. That's your invitation to leak Andrews across the grain, to tag Zay on a glance and go, to let D-Hop feast on backside isolation. Add the QB draw constraint, and your red zone menu gets its teeth back. That's where Baltimore's points come from in late October. Not smoke and mirrors, but structural stress on the second level. And let me be crystal clear about the locker room temperature. Reuters reported it perfectly. The building is hopeful, bordering on urgent. This isn't a team shrugging and checking their mentions. They're treating the bye like a sprint, not a hammock. Heal Lamar's hamstring, reassess QB2, and recalibrate special teams in short yardage. Those are grown man steps, not slogans. I know what some of you are still thinking. Okay, great speech, but can one player really flip the field? With Lamar Jackson in, the Ravens averaged 32.8 points per game in his 4 starts. The red zone spacing, the tempo change, the way the backside end freezes. It's the rising tide that lifts every boat. And you don't have to squint to see the path. Beat Chicago, reset the math to 2-5, then stack a homestand with a healthier edge room coming down the line, and a run game that just woke up. Is it narrow? Absolutely. Is it there? Absolutely. So here's my message to the national desk. Peep the clips, keep the quotes, keep the heat. Baltimore doesn't run from receipts, we collect them. They don't resemble who they used to be? Good, because the scariest version of the Ravens has never looked pretty in October. It looks mean. It looks stubborn. It looks like a fourth quarter where Derrick Henry is still falling forward and a defense that's pinning its ears back because QB1 has them playing with a lead. That's the DNA returning after the bye. Ravens flock, I want to hear from you. Do you believe this defense just turned a corner against the Rams and that Lamar's return unleashes Henry in the pass game? What's your fix-it priority coming out of the bye? QB2, red zone sequencing, or edge pressure? Drop your thoughts below, argue your case, and bring that Baltimore honesty. If you're riding with this team through the storm, smash that like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell. Because when Lamar steps back on the field and this city turns up the volume, you're going to want a front row seat for the receipts we're about to cash. Flock together, and let's go take back the narrative.